Don't you just love college football? Guys, if you didn't get goosebumps, if you weren't getting hyped, if your blood pressure wasn't rising on Saturday, then something is wrong with you because we just witnessed one of the most unbelievable weekends of college football that we have seen in years. What a weekend. 6 ranked versus ranked matchups took place on Saturday, and every single one of them lived up to the hype, and a handful of them, guys, resulting in massive upsets that not only shook up individual conference races, but shook up the playoff race as well. And today, guys, we are here to break down every single one of those matchups, plus a few more, recapping what, again, has been one of the best weekends of football that I have seen in years. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're pumped. We're excited to be here breaking down week 7 of this college football season. Before we get started, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks. Guys, I mean, come on. We are 7 weeks through the season, and look at these numbers here. 23-6 this weekend on the money line. We went 5-1 in those 6 ranked versus ranked matchups. Yes, we chose Tennessee over Alabama. We chose TCU over Oklahoma State. We chose Syracuse over NC State. We chose Utah over USC. Don't believe us? Go watch the videos. They're all right there. Proof is in the pudding, right? 23-6 on the money line, 79.3%, 253-57 through 7 weeks. 81.6% on the money line. You're getting that with our expert picks, along with these spread predictions right here. 44-29 on the year. Have yet to have a losing week here at the Gridiron Expert. Every week has been at least 500 or above. Another 60% week here, 60.3% on the year. If you haven't signed up for them, if you're not taking advantage of these picks, then we feel sorry for you. We want you to take advantage of them, guys. We want you to become a part of our GE Nation. Go sign up. The link for that down in the description below. So let's dive into it, guys. Let's dive into another weekly recap here at the Gridiron Expert. And let's start with the big one, the one that everybody wants to talk about. Let's start with Tennessee. Rocky Top, baby. How about those Volunteers taking down Alabama 52-49 in one of the best games that I've seen in a long time? That will go down as one of the best college football games that I truly have ever seen. And I've watched a lot. You guys have probably watched even more than me. Some of you viewers that have been around a little bit longer, have been college football fans a little bit longer. This still will go down as one of the best games that I truly have ever seen. I mean, let's look at the numbers here, guys. Alabama and Tennessee, number 3 versus number 6, combining for over 1,000 yards of offense. We saw 6 lead changes in Knoxville on Saturday. Tennessee blowing a 28-10 lead, but Chase McGrath hitting a 40-yard field goal as time expired to give the Volunteers their first win over Alabama in 15 years. 15 years it's been since Tennessee beat Alabama. They ended that streak on Saturday. So a few weeks earlier, they ended that 5-game losing streak to Florida. Hadn't had much success against the Gators. Snapped that one there, broke one curse, broke another this Saturday against the Crimson Tide. Take a look at the deeper at numbers. Alabama, 17 penalties for 130 yards. Crimson Tide nearly lost to Texas earlier in the year. They committed 15, 16? 17 against Tennessee for 130 yards. Alabama allowing 52 points, the most points they've allowed in a single game since 1907. And when you look at this game, guys, it was really one of those where you thought, it was just a roller coaster. Tennessee hitting their peak 28-10. We go, God, this could be a rout in Knoxville. But deep down, you knew Alabama was going to come back. And when Alabama had that 11-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown with about 8 minutes left in the game, you thought they got it, right? 49-42, that's the Alabama thought. That felt like a heartbreaker, that just the motivation and momentum killer for Tennessee. But Josh Heupel's squad, they never wavered. They never faltered. They said, fine, we're down 7. We'll come back and beat you at your own game. Tennessee airing it out, getting it down there, tying the game. Will Reichard for Alabama missing the potential game winner from 50 yards out with 15 seconds left. And this is where Tennessee and Josh Heupel did something extraordinary. Most coaches playing Alabama, tied with them, 15 seconds left, would have just kneeled the ball, gone to overtime, hope for the best. Not Josh Heupel, not Hendon Hooker. They said, look, we got time. We got some timeouts. We got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. We're going to air it out, see if we can't go get a field goal. And that's exactly what they did. Tennessee going 45 yards in 13 seconds to set up Chase McGrath for that touchdown, guys. Unbelievable. Unbelievable finish in Knoxville. Gutsy calls, aggressive calls. That's how you take down the greatest coach of all time in Nick Saban. That's how you take down Alabama. Hendon Hooker, 385 yards and 5 touchdowns. All 5 of his touchdowns going to Jalen Hyatt, 207 yards. All 5 touchdowns against his Alabama defense. Again, guys, this was an unbelievable game, back and forth, historic game. Tennessee now into the top 4, potentially even the top 2. And if you didn't think they were the college football playoff contenders going into Saturday, they definitely are now. How about the Volunteers pulling off the massive upset on Saturday and shaking up the college football world? Before that game, before we got to Tennessee and Alabama, most of the great games took place in the afternoon. We saw a statement victory from Michigan. Number 5 Michigan taking down Penn State, a top 10 team, 41-17. And this was a game, guys, where Michigan really kind of started a little bit slow, started fast, let Penn State crawl back into it, and even trailed the Nittany Lions 17-16 early in the third quarter. And then the Wolverines woke up. Then they woke up, scored 25 unanswered points. And against a Penn State defense that was allowing under 80 rushing yards per game. Under 80 rushing yards per game on the year, Michigan had 418. 418 rushing yards against this Penn State front 7. They outgained the Nittany Lions 563 yards to 268. And again, kind of like Tennessee here, if you didn't think that Michigan was a top 4 team, if you thought they were overrated, think again, because this was a statement victory from Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines, showing they can beat you in any way possible. With an accurate quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, a dominant ground game, doesn't matter how good you think your defense is, we're going to torch them. That's exactly what Michigan did. And it's pretty much smooth sailing from here on out for the Wolverines until they face Ohio State in that season finale, which easily could be a battle between unbeatens. What a game in Ann Arbor. Real quick, shout out to Oklahoma. The Sooners snapping their 3-game losing streak. With a big win over number 19 Kansas. 6 top 25 teams went down to those ranked versus ranked matchups. 2 other unranked teams beat ranked opponents. Oklahoma over Kansas was one of them. Georgia Southern over James Madison was the other. The Sooners, though, 701 yards of offense against the Jayhawks. So Kansas now dropping 2 straight, will be out of the top 25, losing 52-42 to the Sooners. 701 yards of offense, led, of course, by Dylan Gabriel. Back from his injury, missed out on the Texas game, came back in a big way, throwing for 403 yards to give Oklahoma a big boost, maybe give them some momentum heading into a very tough stretch of their schedule. All right, staying in the Big 12. We already touched on Alabama, Tennessee. That was the big one that deserved a lot of attention. How about TCU? The 13th ranked team in the country is now 6-0 and no longer number 13. Will be easily in the top 10. Check out our Gridiron Expert rankings as well to see what we had the Horned Frogs ranked. But they took down number 8 Oklahoma State 43-40 in double overtime. And you know what I like the most about this game? You know what I love the most about TCU on Saturday is the fact that TCU trailed the entire game. So similar to Tennessee here in the sense where some teams would just give up, some teams would just roll over, some teams would not be able to handle the adversity that they faced. TCU did. The Horned Frogs trailed the entire game and did not tie the game until a minute 57 left. Under 2 minutes left in the game, that's when TCU finally tied it, sent the game into overtime, beat Oklahoma State 43-40, held them to a field goal in the second one, and then TCU was able to get a touchdown there. The offense firing on all cylinders once again. The defense slowly but surely waking up, shutting down Spencer Sanders, getting the stops when they needed. The Horned Frogs outgained the Cowboys 510 yards to 386, and the Horned Frogs now are going to be the number 1 team in the Big 12 and maybe the Big 12's best chance to get a team into the college football playoff. What a win from the Horned Frogs. What a performance, and what a way to not back down. Trailing the entire game, found a way to win in double overtime. What a win for Sonny Dykes, his squad, in his first year in Fort Worth, 6-0. How about another ranked versus ranked matchup? Number 18, Syracuse, taking down number 15, NC State, 24-9. Do you think Sean Tucker is pleased with his performance? Well, I think he is. Sean Tucker, one of the best running backs in the country, had 98 yards and a touchdown, including the 25-yard dagger with 2:20 left to put Syracuse ahead by 2 possessions. This Syracuse team, guys, is legit. Undefeated under Dino Babers, taking down an NC State team that, yes, found out right before they were going to be without Devin Leary Found out right before they were going to be without Devin Leary for the rest of the season. So Jack Cunningham will be their starter in an offense that was already struggling with Leary as it was. So we knew they were going to struggle against a very stout Syracuse defense. But this Syracuse defense lit them up. Held the Wolfpack to just 9 points. Held them to 255 yards on the day. Just 95 rushing yards from the Wolfpack. Jack Chambers not really getting able to get much going against this very good Orange defense that was great last year. So people kind of forget the Orange had a lot of talent coming back. A lot of talent last year, showing it again this year. Dino Baber's squad is undefeated. Syracuse off to their best start since 1987, and they're setting up a huge showdown next weekend in Death Valley, a game that very well could determine who wins the ACC Atlantic Division against Clemson. And speaking of Clemson, the Tigers survived Florida State in Tallahassee 34-28. The Seminoles were leading 14-7 at the very beginning of the second quarter, and then Clemson scored 27 unanswered points to show why they are or were a top 4 team in the country. 27 unanswered to really put it away. And guys, you can hate on Clemson all you want, but this is a team that looks like a well-oiled machine and looks like they're on a great path to the college football playoff. DJ Uyunglele is playing phenomenal football, was getting so much criticism and hate earlier in the year. This Saturday, 203 yards and 3 touchdowns on the day. Will Shipley, 121 yards on the ground. Yes, Clemson's defense looked a little shaky, gave up a lot of yards on the ground to Florida State, but still, this offense finally starting to click, put the pieces together, and still, yes, the defense allowing a lot of yards, still scored 27 unanswered. The game only won by 6, but obviously Florida State got a late touchdown there to make it look a little bit better than maybe it really was. But Clemson, give Dabo Swinney and the Tigers some credit, guys. This is a team that maybe isn't as sexy or as attractive as Ohio State or Tennessee or guys like that, but the Tigers are legitimate national title contenders. 2 more games here. They're both ranked versus ranked matchups. How about Kentucky bouncing back with a win over Mississippi State thanks to the return of Will Levis? So Kentucky last week fell to South Carolina without Will Levis. Levis comes back for this game, throws for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. But you know what? That's great and all, but it was the Kentucky rushing game that impressed me the most. A Kentucky rushing game that was averaging less than 100 rushing yards per game, had been non-existent all year, finally came to life on Saturday. Chris Rodriguez, 196 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Unbelievable day for Chris Rodriguez. 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the Kentucky defense held the air raid attack from Mississippi State, held them to 203 passing yards. Again, pretty unbelievable for a Mississippi State team that was averaging nearly 350 passing yards per game, held them to about 150 under their average. So give credit to Kentucky for their run game, give them credit for their defense, give credit to the home team that has now won 8 straight games in this series between the Wildcats and the Bulldogs. And then finally, guys, how about the Pac-12? God, the Pac-12 is so much fun to watch this year. No one's giving them enough attention, but man, so many contenders for that conference title, and we get to see so much parity, and that was on display on Saturday as number 20 Utah took down number 7 USC 43-42. Guys, the Utes were 23-2 at home since 2018. One of those losses did come to USC, formerly led by Clay Helton. 23-2 at home since 2018. We said, look, we think the Utes are a different team at home. We think they're going to be able to sneak out a win over a good Trojans team, but a Trojans team that really hasn't played anyone. And I want to give a lot of credit to USC, guys, because they played a really, really good game. Had over 560 yards of offense in this game. Jumped out to a great start, leading 28-14 late in the second quarter. But unlike last week, Utah found themselves in a shootout against UCLA. Unlike last week, Utah had an answer every time for USC on Saturday. Every time UCLA had a big score, Utah didn't always have an answer. They did on Saturday. Utah matched USC step for step when it came to offense. And unlike last week, Utah's defense was able to come through with a couple clutch stops against the Trojans, unlike they were able to do last week against UCLA. You look at this game, guys. Utah scoring the game-tying touchdown, game-tying touchdown with 48 seconds left. Cam Rising running it in on 4th and goal. USC nearly put off a goal line stand for the ages. 4th and goal, Cam Rising gets it in. Kyle Whittingham says, you know what? We're really struggling to stop him defensively. We really are. And we have faith that Caleb Williams can get down there and go win the game for him. So let's go for 2. Let's end it right now. Cam Rising ran it in again, 43-42. They had a pick that got called back for a pass interference call, but nonetheless, Utah creating pressure on Caleb Williams, ran the clock out, and the Utes, yes, 2 losses, yes, out of the playoff picture, but may have just ruined USC's playoff hopes, handing the Trojans their first loss of the year. And give credit again to Cam Rising, a guy who was kind of criticized following their loss to UCLA last week, bounces back with 415 yards, 2 touchdowns, 60 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. So 5 touchdowns in total. And guys, what this means is that the Pac-12 title race, once again, is still wide open. Every team has at least 1 loss in the Pac-12 with the exception of UCLA. And the Bruins take on Oregon next week in Eugene. Talk about a game that has major playoff implications for the conference and obviously major just Pac-12 title implications for every team involved. UCLA, Oregon, Utah, and USC, your top 4. Utah shook up the picture a little bit. It could get shaken up a little bit more next week as the Bruins take on the Ducks, and we'll have more analysis for that here in the coming days. So guys, what a weekend. I mean, again, we were talking about this. 6 ranked versus ranked matchups in a single weekend. That in and of itself is unbelievable. But the fact that all 6 of those lived up to the hype, that we had multiple nail-biters, thrillers that came down to the final seconds, just like TCU Oklahoma State, just like Utah USC, just like Tennessee Alabama. This will go down as one of the best weekends of college football we have ever had. From the upsets to the games to the finishes to the shakeups, this weekend was unbelievable, and we hope that you got to witness it. We hope you got to take it all in, and we hope you got to relive a little bit of it today through this Week 7 recap, because guys, we love doing this. Let me tell you one thing, we're getting ready for an even better Week 8. Non-stop content coming your way the rest of this week. Make sure to stay tuned, only right here on the Gridiron Expert. But until then, guys, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on the gridironexpert.com. That link down in the description below. Again, this is our spread record for the year, beating out over 80% of the national analysts, not just this year, but each of the last 4 years as well. You do not want to miss out on that. Moneyline record, also beating out over 80% of the national analysts. 81.6% through 7 weeks, 60.3% through 7 weeks. You're not going to find a mark anywhere better, and you're not going to find a price cheaper anywhere as well. So go sign up for that today, guys. Become a part of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.